Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and today I'm going to release my Week 3 college football top 25. So there's going to be a few changes in the top 25. You've been keeping up with my top 25. You may agree, you may disagree. Of course, we had a big game last week between Alabama and Texas, so that was going to change up the top 25. We also had a couple upsets in the top 25. So that's going to change up the top 25. And then we had some teams that just didn't perform as up to expectations. So that's definitely going to shake up the top 25 as well. But before we get into that, I want to talk about something real quick. So as you can see, the stuff behind me, I'm an OU fan, and I don't know if nationally if there was a little controversy, but um, in here around here in Oklahoma, there was a little controversy after the OU game this past Saturday. OU beat SMU 28-11, and one of our offensive coordinator is Jeff Lebby, and I don't know how much nationally everybody knows anything about Jeff Lebby. Jeff Lebby, he went to school at OU, and then after school, he's moved around a few places. He was the last offensive coordinator job was at Ole Miss. He's also been at UCF, but before any of that, he was on staff at Baylor when Art Briles, um, the episode with Art Briles happened, and um, he was on that staff. He wasn't really found to be involved with that situation, but he was on the staff. And the thing is, Art Briles is also, he's not just a former coach, he's also his father in law. So Jeff Lebby married Art Briles' daughter, and they have two kids together. And so there was a picture that almost immediately after the game, or shortly after the game, was released to the on Twitter and to the public of Jeff Lebby, Art Briles, and Jeff Lebby's kids taking a picture together on the field. And Art Briles is wearing OU shirt. And so a lot of the OU faithful fans, um, they reacted to it. And in my opinion, the media and OU kind of blew it out of proportion. This is so, and let me explain to you why. I understand Art Briles has a bad reputation of what happened at Baylor, but um, I'm not going to get into that right now. I have my thoughts on that. I'm not going to get into that. But I will say this: when OU hired Jeff Lebby, they knew who his father-in-law was. They knew that there he would most likely visit his family, watch him play, and he'd be around his family. Now, my understanding is that there was um, there was some guidelines put in Jeff Levy's contract that basically I don't know the word for word, but basically said they didn't want Art Briles on the field or around the team, and I don't know if he really broke that. Yeah, he was on the field, but this was after the game. He wasn't around the team. And here's the thing: this is where I think OU is getting themselves in trouble. Number one, you hired a guy you knew his family was. You can't expect him to follow certain rules, and I mean, he let all the other families enjoy time on the field, take pictures with their family on the field, but you can't. But he can't. You can't single him out like that. Um, so I really think OU is out of line on this. The media, I think, blew it way out of proportion. That now, I will say this: Sunday night when I was watching the Sunday night, 10 o'clock news, there's a little special they do every Sunday night on every week. No matter if it's college football, it's every week. And I will tell you, when I watched that, I was a little worried because it looked like OU and Art Briles was at odds on this whole, or not Art Briles, I'm sorry, OU and Jeff Levy was at odds on this situation, and I was not, I was not, I didn't like it. I didn't like what OU was doing. I thought Jeff Levy was right. Again, his quote was, that's my family," um, and he even shared the picture they took on Twitter after the press conference, after OU kind of came after him. But yesterday, he did come out and basically said it was a distraction of the team. He wanted to apologize for that. We'll see after the end of the season. I'd be curious to see if Jeff Levy, if OU has told him, basically, this happens again, you're fired. I'd be curious to see if Jeff Levy wants to stay here. See if OU pushes them out, kind of like they did Josh Heupel. And Josh Heupel's got, I think that things have cleared up between OU and Josh Heupel, but at first it was rough. And here's another OU guy is on your coaching staff, a guy who went to school at OU, played. He was on the football team until he got hurt, but he was still part of the football team after he got hurt. That's how he got into coaching. And I really do think OU's out of line with this. They need to back up. He's not bringing around the players. He's spending time with his family. As far as the OU shirt goes, well, you can get an OU shirt anywhere in any store. That hasn't really came up. Did Jeff Levy give him the shirt? I don't know if he did or not. But he can go to any store and buy that shirt. So it's not really a big deal as far as I'm concerned on that. So I just wanted to make my thoughts clear on that. Like I said, I think OU's out of line on this. I think the media's blew it way out of proportion. We'll see how the season goes. I will say this, though. It's kind of ironic that this happened, and then the offense that game just looked basic as it can get. Like, we scored 28 points, but at times we looked like we was playing, an NFL team because we couldn't move the ball. Whereas we should be more explosive than that. Were they holding stuff back? It's very possible. We got Tulsa this week, another team that we should blow out. But will we hold stuff back? It's definitely possible. But I definitely think you've also got to get your players in rhythm, right? And so you can't hold everything back. I felt like we ran the ball way too much. Should have threw the ball, especially I don't think we threw the ball down the field one time last week. Even our longest pass plays were hitting the guy, 10 yards, and he's running it down the field. So we didn't make no long pass plays like we did in week one. It's already on film. You can throw the ball down the field. So you might as well not hold it back anymore. As far as plays go, you ain't got to run different plays. You can run the same plays. Can they stop you? Probably not. Not Tulsa. Probably not going to stop you. So just run the plays that are already on film and, get in rhythm. And then the week after that, Big 12 play starts. So, but I just said, like I said, I thought it was kind of ironic that as a plain as the offense was, and as much it struggled, right after that, as a picture released on your offensive coordinator, it kind of, like I said, the media blew out of proportion. So, but anyway, I just want to make my thoughts clear on that. Now we're going to get our top 25. So, like I said, there's going to be a few changes. Some because of losses, some because of big wins, and some because the teams just aren't doing what they should be doing. So, at number 25, jumping into the top 25, I've got Louisville. Louisville has looked pretty impressive. Now, granted, they haven't played a great team yet, but they have looked pretty impressive. And we'll see. They got a Friday night game this week. We'll see how they do on Friday night. At number 24, with a big win this week at home, we got the Miami Hurricanes as they beat Texas A&M. They swept the series with Texas A&M. Texas A&M was hoping to go to Miami and get payback, and it didn't happen. So the Hurricanes are looking pretty good. They're looking pretty good. Like I said before the season started, ACC was going to be pretty tight this year. Um, there's 4 teams, maybe 5 teams that can fight for that championship. And again, there's no divisions in the ACC this year. It's top two, best 2 teams are going to go at it in the championship. So Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Clemson all got a good shot at making it. And Louisville might surprise some people. Don't be surprised if they sneak up there and sneak into the conference championship game. They actually have the easiest schedule, so don't be surprised. At number 23, also jumping in the top 25. I know this is my top 25. I know they're in the top 25 in the AP, and they're ranked. They're almost a top 10 team. So you're probably saying, "Well, oh man, Nate, why are you just now getting them in there?" Well, honestly, I didn't think that they were going to be as good as they were last year, and they're the defending Big 12 champions. But I just didn't think they were going to build. They got a new quarterback this year. He's been around in the program, but he wasn't their quarterback last year. Wasn't sure how they were going to do, and they haven't played anybody tough. We'll see how good they are this week. It's not a really, really tough game, but they do got to go on the road to Missouri. So we'll see how Kansas State does. And at number 23, I got Kansas State. At number 22, moving up a spot, um, you know, they actually struggled in the first half, but put it in gear in the second half. I didn't get to watch any of the second half. I watched a little bit of the first half, and we're talking about the Clemson Tigers. I still think they've got a lot to improve offensively, and they played nobody. I forget who they played, but it was a nobody, and they struggled in the first half, but they did pull away in the second half. At number 21, moving up 4 spots, is the Colorado Buffaloes. So I watched a lot of this game against Nebraska, and in the first half, really, Nebraska shot themselves in the foot way too many times. I think they had 4 turnovers in the first half, and 3 of them were off of snaps. The ball hit the quarterback in the hand twice, and he fumbled it, and Colorado got it. Another time, the guy was in motion when they snapped the ball, and it hit him. Now that one they didn't turn over actually, because they hit that guy, and he actually got back on it. But yeah, they maybe just had 3 turnovers in the first half, but it set Colorado up with good field position. They ended up being up 13-0 or 13-3 at halftime, and put it in gear the second half and ran away with it. Now, Nebraska, they've got a. I don't understand why they haven't found their identity. Your identity is your quarterback running the ball. I said that after week 1, and you didn't do it. Matt Rule, you might want to give me a call, and I'll tell you how you need to run plays in your offense, because throwing the ball is not going to be doing you any good. You can run your running back, but you need to run that quarterback a lot. He needs to run the ball about 20 times a game. Keep the defense honest. So number 20, moving up 2 spots, we got the Duke Blue Devils. Another blowout win for them. They're looking really good. Again, it's a team I predicted before the season started that was going to finish 3rd in the ACC and just missed out on the conference championship game. They got a good chance. They got a really good chance. Their offense is really good. Their defense is fast. It's going to be interesting ACC between Duke, North Carolina, Florida State. Those 3 are my front runners. Clemson and Louisville will probably find themselves in the mix. But yeah, Duke's got a good shot at this. At number 19, moving up 1 spot, the Oregon State Beavers. I didn't get a chance to watch their game, but they did win pretty easily. Again, I don't think they played anybody really that competitive. So, moving up 1 spot is Oregon State. At 18, moving up 1 spot is the Kansas Jayhawks. Jalen Daniels did play this game. Again, I don't know why he missed the first week, but he played in week 2, played the whole game, and he looked really good. They played Illinois. I don't remember if it was on the road or not. I think it was. But No, it was at home. It was at home, I think. I don't remember, but they played Illinois. Looked really good. Was up to like a 20 something point lead, and then they got relaxed, and Illinois fought back in it a little bit, but Kansas ended up slamming the door on them. So Kansas again, a team I picked third in the Big 12. We finished third in the Big 12. They're looking really sharp. Don't count Kansas out. They're known to make upsets of people. And in a couple weeks, the Big 12 team are going to kick off, and look out for Kansas. And number 17, Ole Miss, moving up one spot. They're 2-0. They battled a top 25 team in Tulane, and it was a really good game in the first half. Uh, Ole Miss ended up pulling away, but I will say this: Tulane did not have their starting quarterback. He got hurt in game one. They weren't sure if he's going to be able to play or not, and he wasn't able to play. But Tulane did a good job staying in the game in the first half, and then there was just Ole Miss was too much for him in the second half. So Ole Miss is the only team in the West now that is, they're not the only team, but they're the only team that really were given a chance to have a chance to win the West. They're the only team that is undefeated now. Alabama's lost, Texas A&M lost. Both of them lost this last weekend. LSU lost in week one. So, yeah, of course, none of those were conference losses, so all of them still got a chance to win their division and play for the conference championship. But Ole Miss on top of their division right now. At number 16, dropping one spot is Ohio State. Ohio State, to me, just has not been impressive. When you look at the box score, again, I haven't had a chance to really watch them, but the box score has not been impressive. Their offense is just not kicking. So they dropped a spot. But yeah, Ohio State is 2-0 undefeated. They dropped a spot. Coming up at 15, also dropping one spot is LSU. LSU played nobody, okay? And they won big. They did what they're supposed to do, unlike in week one when they lost to Florida State. So LSU still kind of iffy for me. But yeah, they're ranked at 15. Now, number 14, dropping 7 spots is Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously, they lost this past weekend at home to Texas. And watching that game, I'm sorry. Alabama is not a contender for the title. Right now, they're not a contender for the title. They're not a contender even for the SEC title. They don't have an offense. They don't have a quarterback. This is probably the worst quarterback they've had under Nick Saban. I don't remember who their quarterback was the first year he was there, and they lost about 4 or 5 games his first year at Alabama. But now this quarterback can run the ball, probably the best runner. Well, I don't know. Jalen Hurts was a good runner, and so was Bryce Young. But throwing the ball, he's just not near as good as any of those guys. So, yeah, and defensively, they were getting torched by Texas like I've never seen an Alabama team get torched. They look like some old OU defenses. Texas guys just run right by the secondary guys wide open. So, yeah, this is not a team that can win a national championship this year. This is not a team that can even win the SEC West right now. I would put Ole Miss ahead of them. I would even put I'm not even impressed with LSU or Texas A&M, so I would just put Ole Miss ahead of them. They do got a chance to represent the West, but that's not saying much this year. The SEC, and I'm gonna go over some at the end of the show. We're gonna go over some information. And the SEC is not the conference it hasn't been in the past, and I'm gonna prove that at the end of the show after we give my rankings. Number 13, dropping one spot, is North Carolina. Now, this is a team that dropped a spot because they just didn't look impressive. They went into overtime against Appalachian State. Now, don't get me wrong. Appalachian State has a history of upsetting blue blood teams or top 25 teams. They beat Michigan about 10 years ago. Blocked a field goal to win that game. They beat Texas A&M last year in Texas A&M. So Appalachian State does have a history of winning these type of games, and they took North Carolina all the way to overtime. The same North Carolina that really looked really good against South Carolina. So um, maybe Appalachian State's really good, but in my opinion, North Carolina should have been able to it should never went to overtime. They should have won by at least 2 scores. At number 12, moving up a spot is Oklahoma. Now, they did not look impressive either. However, their defense did look really good. Ole Miss has a history of being able to score, 20 or 30 points a game. They throw the ball all over the field. But this is the first. They scored 11 points. That's the least amount of points they've scored in the last 5 years. So OU's defense that's been a thorn in their side the last 5 or 6 years or longer than that. They could have won. They could have beat Georgia and won a national championship that year if they had a defense. Instead, they just tried to outscore teams. And their offense this week was very stagnant. Otherwise, I think it would have blew them out like a lot more. But the play calling, it was not on the players. It was the play calling that was just bland. And I think that was for a reason, just to not show a lot of stuff. And as I said earlier, they can't do that. They got to go out and play football. But their defense, very impressive. They even blocked a punt. Second week in a row that Oklahoma has had a big special teams play. So in 2 weeks, they've had two big special teams play. So they've improved on all phases of the game. I mean, obviously, offense didn't look that good last week, but I think they were just holding back. We'll find out. We'll find out if I'm right or wrong on that. But their defense looks a lot better. Their special teams looks a lot better. So they moved up to one spot to 12. Dropping one spot to 11 is Oregon. Now, Oregon, man, they played at Texas Tech this weekend, and the whole week they looked like, or the whole game they looked like they was going to lose. And I don't know if you've seen the end of that game, but yeah, they cost a lot of people some money, and they won some people some money, because if you took Oregon last week, you were sweating it. And I think they were like a 6.5 or 7 point favorite, and maybe 7.5, depending where you got it at. But they took a 1 point lead with 2 minutes to go in the game, minute and a half to go in the game. And so if you're on the over, or you got Oregon in the points, you're like, man, there's no way I can win. I need the defense to get a touchdown. And that's exactly what happened. The defense got an interception. The quarterback's arm was hit, fell right in the linebacker's arms, and he ran it back for a touchdown. And they covered the spread. But again, they took the whole game for them to finally get the lead. It wasn't like they had the lead and Texas Tech came back on them. They were trailing the whole game. So Oregon dropped a spot, and that they're gonna have to get better than that if they're gonna win the Pac-12. At number 10, also dropping a spot in the same situation is Utah. Utah, got their Big 12 welcoming early as they went to Baylor and played this past weekend. And here's another situation, Pac-12 Big 12 matchup, where the Pac-12 team just didn't look good, and Baylor's a team that lost to Texas State the week before. So Baylor's not a very good team. Now, I will tell you this: the smart play on that game would have been to take the under. You got two really good defensive teams playing. If you took the points, depending on when you got it, you may have won, may not have won. But yeah, Utah, I think, was favored by 7, and another team trailed the whole game, and found a way to get a late touchdown. Matter of fact, I don't know if you watched the end of that game. but it was a tie ball game. Utah had the ball inside the 10-yard line. Baylor's out of timeouts. So there's like 35 seconds to go in the game. Utah runs the ball up the middle. Baylor kind of wrapped him up, but he runs through their arms and he goes all the way to the goal line and he's just running sideways. And Baylor was trying to let him score. And instead of him taking a knee, the Baylor player came up from behind and pushed him into the end zone. So, yeah, if you had the points, you were like, please get a touchdown. And then, he finally got pushed in the end zone and they kicked extra points, so they go up 7. So yeah, that was pretty interesting if you had money on it. Number 9, dropping a spot is Tennessee. This, they only drop in a spot really because some other teams looked more impressive than they did. They did win and won by double digits, but I don't know if they covered the spread or not. But they didn't. Yeah, they didn't look as impressive as the week before. But still, the only reason that they're dropping a spot is because there's other teams looking more impressive than them. At number 8, moving up 8 spots is the Texas Longhorns. Now, Texas had a big win over Alabama. But like Colorado, like I said 2 weeks ago, in Colorado, when Colorado beat TCU, that wasn't the same TCU team that played in the national championship game. The Alabama team is not the same Nick Saban Alabama team. But it was a road win at Alabama, and that's impressive. And it's not like Alabama is a slouch of a team. They're not. But don't get overhyped with it, thinking that, Texas put them in the playoffs right now. They still got to win the Big 12. They still got to beat Oklahoma. They still got to beat Kansas and Kansas State, teams that always give them a hard time. So, but they did look impressive. I'll tell you, here's another thing that Alabama did not look very good on. Their defensive line. Their defensive line is not near as good as it has been in the past. They didn't get close to Quinn Ewers this past weekend. And you say, okay, well, maybe Texas offensive line's really good. They got 5 returning starters, and all that is true. However, the week before against Rice was getting to the quarterback. So, what's that say about Alabama? When Rice can go out there and get the quarterback, but Alabama can't, and you're getting these 4 and 5-star defensive line recruits. So maybe they just weren't ready. Maybe they weren't ready. We'll see. We'll see how good Texas is again. We'll see how good Alabama turns out to be. At number 7, moving up 4 spots, is USC. USC with another impressive win over Stanford. They, their defense actually looked pretty good this week. I thought Stanford would score more points than they did. The game was over at halftime. It was like 49-0 at halftime or something, or 49-3. And I think both teams scored a touchdown, and that was it in the second half. But yeah, one thing about those USC games, they're coming on late. I'm not staying up till 12 o'clock at night, midnight, watching it. Yeah, I agree, Roger. So Roger's saying Alabama isn't as good in most positions, and I would agree with that. Yeah, that defensive line and their quarterback play, two key and linebacker play also have been really good positions for Alabama in the past, and they're not looking near as good. Their secondary, like I said, got torched. Looked like OU's secondary back when Alex Grinch and Mike Stoops was coaching here. So, but yeah, at number 6, staying at number 6 is the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm sorry, I can't move Georgia up until you play somebody. You got to. I know they're playing this weekend. They are playing South Carolina, but South Carolina not very good either. Now it'll probably be a better team than they have played so far, but Georgia has not impressed anybody. Again, here's another game at the end of the first quarter. It's 0-0. You're supposed to be the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't care who you, and you're not playing anybody. If you were playing Alabama, it was 0-0. Okay. If you're playing Tennessee, it's 0-0. Okay. But you're playing nobody names, and you're scoreless after 1. Or a week before, it was 7-0 with 2 minutes to go in the first half. that shouldn't be happening. If you want me to move you up higher, you got to impress me, and you're not impressing me. So I'll give you credit for the athletes that you got on the field and the coachings you got, but right now you're not a top 5 team. You wouldn't make the playoffs if it was today. Number 5 is the Washington Huskies. Again, this team stayed number 5. They I can't remember who they played, but I think they won pretty easily. I think they had I can't remember who they played. They had I think an easy win. But yeah, I do like Pelix. Pelix, the name, I think quarterback. I do like him. I think Washington again is going to compete for that Pac-12 championship and fighting for a playoff spot. Number 4, at number 4, staying the same is Notre Dame. Another impressive win. They're actually 3-0. I got 2-0 here. They're actually 3-0. They beat North Carolina State on the road, and yeah, another 20-point win. North Carolina State's not as good as they were last year, but they are going to, the middle of the pack, ACC. They're going to win some games. Good win for Notre Dame. Probably outside of Texas, probably the best win so far this year from anyone. Number 3, Penn State, 2-0. They're just doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're winning games like they're supposed to be winning. And I said before the season started, I predicted them to win the Big Ten. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. At number 2, dropping 1 spot. So that means we got a new number 1. Dropping 1 spot is the Michigan Wolverines. And the only reason they're dropping is they're not blowing people out. I mean, they won 35-0, but they're just playing plain Jane football. You got to win 56-0 against teams they're playing. They're not doing it. So number 1 is the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State, they're blowing teams out like they're supposed to. That's why they jumped Michigan. They did what they're supposed to do. So and so new number 1, Florida State Seminoles are my new number 1. Now, I told you I was going to talk about something else afterwards. So here's I want to point some numbers out to you guys. So records by conference against other Power 5 teams. The ACC is 4-3 overall. But get this. They're 4-1 against the SEC. Say it again. They are 4-1 against the SEC. And the one loss they have is Virginia, who's a bottom feeder on the ACC, to Tennessee. So you got Florida State, you've got you've got North Carolina, you've got Wake Forest, and who's the other one? One other team that has won and has beaten SEC teams. Wake Forest beat Vanderbilt. North Carolina beat South Carolina. Florida State beat LSU. Miami beat Texas A&M, and Wake Forest beat Vanderbilt. So 3 out of those 4 are against really good teams. So very impressive by ACC. The Big Ten is 3-3 overall. They're 2-1 against the Big 12, but they're 0-2 against the Pac-12. Okay. The Big 12 is 4-5 against the other Power 5 teams. They're 1-3 against the Pac-12, 1-2 against the Big 10. The one win for the Big 12 against the Pac-12 was Oklahoma State over Arizona State. So nobody winning an impressive game. And the Pac-12, they're 6-3 against other Power 5 teams, 3-1 against the Big 12, and 2-0 against the Big 10. So very impressive there. Here's this: the SEC, 3-6 against other Power 5 schools, 1-4 against the ACC. with Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M all having losses so far against other Power 5 schools. So um, only 2 teams in the SEC have looked good, Georgia and Tennessee. And again, Georgia hasn't played nobody, but they're only a team, them and Tennessee, and neither one of them really played anybody, even though Tennessee did play a Power 5 school, Virginia, against a bottom feeder Power 5 school. So here's my rankings by conference. Number 1 is the Pac-12 this season so far. Now, we'll see how it ends up. But the number 1 conference right now I've got is the Pac-12. Number 2 is the ACC. Number 3 is the Big Ten. Number 4 is the Big 12. And coming in last in all the Power 5 conferences is the SEC. And again, you can only really base that off of what your conference playing other Power 5 schools and what they're doing. And the SEC is 3-6 so far. Pac-12 is 6-3. So they're the only one. The Pac-12 is the only one with a plus 500 record against other Power 5 schools. No, I'm sorry. ACC is also barely. They're 4-3. The Big Ten's a 500 at 3-3. The Big 12 is slightly under at 4-5. But yeah, the SEC is way under. There are going to be a lot more games this week. So week 3, we'll finish it off for the other Power 5 matchups and non-conference games. So we'll do it again next week and see how improved some of these conferences did. But I'd be surprised if the SEC jumped at all, because they've already lost so many games. I don't see them coming out of that spot. All right, guys, if you haven't already, please take the time to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you get notified every time Old Man Nate drops a video or goes live. And also, if you haven't, so at this time, take the time to go to oldmancoffee.shop and you can get you some coffee. We have 47 different flavors. If you're a coffee drinker, try it out. We got 47 different flavors for you. You can also get you a tumbler to drink that coffee in. Old Man Nate with some Old Man Sports Talk tumbler, or an Old Man Sports Talk T-shirt. Okay, so again, I thank you guys for watching. Leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think of my top 25. Tell me who you would change around, and also let me know what you think about my conference rankings. All right, I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Old Man Sports Talk.